Well, I can't believe it's been 12 months since I've left community pharmacy and gone into primary care stroke PCN pharmacy. So the big question is, was it worth it after 12 months? If you are new here, my name is Osama. I'm a pharmacist working in England. If this is your first time here, great to meet you. Thanks for joining us. So I've already done a 7-day, 28-day and 6-month later video. And now that I've done 12 months in primary care pharmacy, I think it's a great opportunity and moment to be able to reflect on the past 12 months. And I think I've probably got enough experience now to make quite a good judgment as to whether I made the right move or not from community pharmacy. So what's the upfront conclusion then? Have I made the right move? Yes, I have made the right move, but with one caveat: you need to ensure that you have the right support in place with the surgery that you're working in. Otherwise, I think it will be a bit of an uphill struggle and you'll feel like you're pushing on a string. Primary care isn't really a natural place, traditionally speaking, for a pharmacist to be in. So it can be quite a tough environment if you don't have that support in place. I'd say the past year it's been quite an up and down sort of journey, but the general trajectory has been upwards. I would say that it probably has took me the best part of a year to become fully settled in the job. When you combine the upskilling that we undergo when we go into the sector through the PCPEP course and just general upskilling around the job, once that happens, it's very hard, in my opinion, to go back to community pharmacy. I got excellent value and consistency from my 22 years in community pharmacy, but I just felt really that it was time to change. I had pretty much exhausted all the opportunities that community pharmacy had given me, and I felt it was just time for a step up, really. At the end of the day, the way I see it is that community pharmacy just cannot match the technical aspects and the opportunities for patient care that primary care pharmacy can give us. Having said that though, if you are a community pharmacist, I think there's a lot more clinical services going to come your way. The problem is, however, because the government doesn't really give much funding to community pharmacy, even though you're going to have a lot of these clinical services pushed onto you, which is great, I think. The problem is, without the extra funding, it's going to feel like a bit of an uphill struggle at times. What I've found over the last 12 months is that the more you become entrenched within primary care as a professional, the more you start thinking like a primary care clinician and less like a retail pharmacist. And I think this is great because really in the NHS we need a holistic approach to sort of healthcare and patients. We just can't have this traditional pharmacist obsession with drugs. We need to be thinking more as primary care clinicians, really. I think the front line to some extent is community pharmacy, but also I think one of the real front lines is primary care. And for me personally speaking, I love to be in the trenches, in the surgeries, with the GPs, with the nurses, with the receptionists. You know, you turn up 8 a.m. a dark winter's morning, they appreciate you being there, showing up day after day. You know, I just love to get stuck in with the surgery, so I log on to my computer and I relish just jumping onto the tasks and helping the patients out and helping the surgery out. You know, I love speaking to patients, even if a lot of the time that's not face to face. A lot of the time it's just over the telephone, but I still love to phone them and try and help these people out. Some of the opportunities for patient care in PCN Pharmacy are just mind-boggling. For example, in the past year I've done a huge project involving diabetes and SGLT2 drugs across both surgeries that I cover. So this has involved 540 patients, and if you don't know the latest guidelines with SGLT2I drugs, basically any type 2 diabetic patient with ischemic heart disease, things like that, or a Q risk of 10% or above, we add an SGLT2 drug to the therapy to minimise the risk of heart failure going forward. On top of that, these SGLT2 drugs also help preserve renal function, and they help with weight loss as well as glycemic control. So tell me, where are you going to find that in community pharmacy, opportunities like that? The answer is, for now, you're not going to get those opportunities. It's only in primary care. Another example is that we won a grant from the AHSN for lipid management. So the AHSN is the Academy of Health Science Network, and they help to sort of get projects up and running within primary care and the NHS to help optimise patient care. So we applied for a grant for a project to help optimise our lipid management of patients. So basically this involves submitting an application, and if you're successful they give you funding to get clinical pharmacists to come into your surgery and help you with your lipid management of your patients. Again, where are you going to get this in community pharmacy? The answer is you're not going to get things like this. I think you're getting the message now. Basically, it's a night and day difference in terms of clinical opportunities between community pharmacy and primary care pharmacy. Another point I want to make is about the independent prescribing. Now, I got my qualification back in 2017 and it was just sitting on the shelf gathering dust. At least in this job, I get to use it on an almost daily basis. Again, I think that's probably going to change. I'm pretty certain the government, from what I am reading, they are very keen for pharmacists, community pharmacists, to use their IP within the community sector, and I'm sure they're going to jiggle things around to make sure that this is actually going to happen. Obviously, I can only speak for myself. I've had my own unique career and unique journey. It was definitely a tough transition to move from 22 years of community pharmacy into primary care pharmacy. It wasn't all plain sailing the past 12 months. The first 2 surgeries I were in weren't really geared up to have a pharmacist there, so that was quite difficult. I turned up every day and I had to try and carve out my own specific role within the surgery. It was tough. Sometimes it was just like digging a tunnel through a granite mountain, but you know what, we got there in the end. It's just hard work and consistency. Speaking to other pharmacists, I think they've also had that same problem. I just find it really disappointing that in some situations there's GPs who don't really take an interest or don't really take full advantage of having a clinical pharmacist on the premises. But to be honest with you, that's their loss, not ours. You know, GPs like that, you know, I just think sometimes they're a bit short-sighted because they don't realise the value that we can add to healthcare. You know, having said that though, I really persevered and really carved out a great little niche for me in the surgeries that I worked in, and I was valued working in those places. I will say though, the vast majority of GPs that I've met and spoke to are really positive about the new influx of pharmacists coming into primary care and the surgeries. Another big plus for me is the work-life balance in this job. So my current hours are 8 till 4 Monday to Friday. I work from home on a Wednesday. Compare this to community pharmacy where my core minimum hours was 45 hours a week. But because I used to turn up a bit early, to be honest, I was doing closer to 50 hours a week. And when it was my Saturday to do my 1 and 4 rota, that could go up to 55 hours a week. These days I feel like I have a lot more time to do the things that I like to do outside of the pharmacy bubble, of which there are many things that I like to do outside the pharmacy world. From what I gather, most PCNs are quite flexible when it comes to hours. So if you're a parent and you've got childcare issues, things like that, really it's a big positive and a bonus making this sort of switch. I would find it very hard to go back to community pharmacy now, and I think one of the reasons is because of that work-life balance. It's just a real breath of fresh air after 2 decades of working retail hours. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone has to do what's right for them. You know, if you're watching this video, just because it was the right move for me doesn't mean it's going to be the right move for you, and you have to decide what is right for you at this particular moment in time. For me, it came at the right time of my career. I was halfway, or hopefully I'm going to be halfway through my career as a community pharmacist. I'm 45 now, so I'm hoping this primary care sector will see me through to retirement. Fingers crossed. And just one last word of caution, depending on what sort of pharmacy you used to work in, you may find primary care harder than where you used to work, or you might find it easier. I think it's probably neutral. It's probably neutral, I think. If you came from a really busy pharmacy, really stressful, you may well find primary care easier for you. Some people who've made the switch from community pharmacy I found primary care a bit more difficult in certain areas. So again, you know, you have to think about these things. Primary care isn't always for the faint-hearted. There is a lot of staff turnover sometimes when it comes to the admin staff and secretaries, so you have to bear that in mind. But what I will say is that if you manage to get the right surgery with the right support, by God, it's amazing. The rewards are just massive, and in my opinion, much bigger than anything you can get in community pharmacy. Anyway, that's enough of me talking. I hope you found that a bit useful. Let me know what you think. Laters.